get asked all the time, if you're on a panel and you only have time to tell one story, which do you pick? Do you pick humility? Do you pick humor? Do you pick heartbreak? And I always say,
it frames you. I mean, it is a key branding, marketing, communication tool when done the right way. It frames you in front of the audience before you even start speaking.
Look at every season of your life that you've lived as a chapter. I have very distinct seasons of my life, and every single one of them is a chapter in my story, and every single chapter taught me something. This is the time of the day that we get slap happy, so this is going to be a fun one. So welcome back to She Means
Millions.
Business. Oh,
did you say business?
I did.
Oh my goodness.
Because she means more than business. She means millions. Welcome back to She Means Millions. I'm a little slap happy and tired, so you're in for a treat. I think all three of us are on the same level. Would you agree?
No, I'm very bright and fresh.
I love that for you. How are you feeling?
I'm still eating my mint.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to be kind of piggybacking off of the last episode because we were talking about branding, and one of the things that kind of came up that we all agreed that we could do a whole episode on in the spirit of building off of your brand is how you tell your story. And the art of storytelling is not an easy one to master. And I think all three of us are pretty confident in our ability to do that. And so who wants to kick it off? Who has a story?
I say the CEO and founder.
Ah.
She lays it on us. Go ahead. We'll take your lead.
So I have a very strong opinion about stories. I think stories is what makes you unique. I can't do this with a mint.
Closer.
I have a very strong opinion about stories because I do think that stories are the key differentiator. I think your stories are as unique as your fingerprint. And so while everybody has fingerprints, no one's story is just like some other person's fingerprints. It's as unique as your own. And I think knowing when to tell a story is critically important. And I believe that knowing what type of story to tell is important when you're connecting with an audience, whether you are speaking live or you're doing a webinar. Knowing how you bring people along through your journey is critical. I have always looked for what are the types of stories that are out there. And to make it simple for me, I categorize my stories. And I happen to like alliterations. And so I've categorized my stories in terms of humor, heartbreak, and humility. And whenever I am writing my keynote or my webinar or whatever it is that I'm presenting in whatever format, it could be as a podcast guest, right? I'm always thinking about what are the most poignant stories that I can tell, not for the sake of telling the story, but for illuminating what it is that I want my listener or my audience member to receive. So it's not just to tell a story for story's sake. So one of the things that you can use for connecting with someone in humility, and I do think the more successful you become, the more people think that you lose touch of what they are going through. So reminding them of your journey, and particularly if you are, very easy for me, someone that was raised by a single mom. My dad died before I ever had a chance to really know him. And my mom wasn't from this country. She was from Mexico, and so English wasn't her first language. And that created some, I think, uniquenesses in how I was raised in a small town, farm town like Dayton, Ohio, at the time. And Dayton, Ohio has come a long way, but back when I was there, it was farm country. To this day, about 5 miles, would you say, from the house I was raised in, is Cargill, which is a corn syrup plant. And so to be where I am, what I've accomplished today, which I've worked really hard for, nothing, has been handed to me. Reminding people that, or for people that don't know me, sharing with people kind of the beginnings, I think is really important. I think it helps them appreciate where you've come from, what you have learned, the passion of why you have, particularly for me, the passion to share everything that I know with as many people as I know, because I do believe in abundance and I do believe there's enough for everyone, is really important. So, knowing where, if you feel like your audience could feel like you are out of touch with them, a humility story anchored in the right place, and sometimes in the beginning, is really helpful to get the whole room grounded. Humor is a great story. Poking fun at yourself or your life situations is really resonating. People like to laugh, and people like people that they like. So sometimes I get asked all the time, if you're on a panel and you only have time to tell one story, which do you pick? Do you pick humility? Do you pick humor? Do you pick heartbreak? And I always say, go for the humor, because that will make people like you and want to know more about you. They're going to go and they're going to check out your social media channels and that kind of thing. They might go to YouTube to see what your videos are all about and that kind of thing. So humor is always good. And I like to use humor in a very self-deprecating way.
Like what?
Like what?
Like what?
Like, I've often talked about how my mother, wanted me to marry a CEO, and that she, when I was first growing up and coming out of school and getting my first job and working at the bank, she talked about, pay attention to the CEO. When I told her I was going to parties, pay attention to the CEOs. And of course, I didn't marry a CEO, but
so much better. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If I say so myself.
Married so much better. She lived long enough to see that I became the CEO that she wanted me to marry. And how about that?
Yeah.
And so
ultimately.
Pardon?
Ultimately
what? I ultimately became the CEO she wanted me to marry.
But the funny part is that he slept his way to the top.
You guys are something else, boy.
That's not funny.
Yeah.
Oh, wrong audience.
That I may have been a groupie in the 70s while you were on Capitol Records touring the world with Peter Frampton and the OJs and the Commodores, but you're the one who ultimately slept your way to the top.
Oh God, we hit it again.
That's where that comes from. Yeah. So there's humor as an example of it, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I needed the whole story.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so I have those ones that are anchored that I know kind of work, particularly if I'm with a newer audience. And sometimes if I'm with an audience where I have a lot of people that know me, that are in our community, that are part of the eWomen Network tribe, I will sometimes just say, for those of you, I'll have people raise their hands or put in the chat, if you're new to eWomen Network or you're new to this woman, Sandra Yancey, let me know. Say me in the chat or raise your hand. And then everybody can see the audience, whether the audience knows me well or not. So then I can say to the people that know me, for those of you that know me, indulge me for a couple of minutes while I bring everybody else up to speed. Because I think what happens is I often hear speakers say, gosh, I don't want to sound like I'm a broken record where all I have is one message. And that is true, but some of your stories are signature to you. They are part of your thumbprint. They are part of what makes you you. And when you know what that is, it is okay to repeat them. And so you have to level set set the audience so that those that hear it for a second or third or fourth time just know that you're only going to take a couple of minutes to get everybody else up to speed, because you have a no person left behind policy, right? You want to make sure that everybody comes along at the same pace in the same way. So I just think that, stories are a critical component to delivering your content and your core message of how you help and transform. And people ultimately buy from people that they like.
Yeah.
And your stories is what makes you memorable, and it makes them decide to like you in many ways.
I remember, I think it was at a conference with you, and Russell Brunson was speaking. I think it was his conference. And he said something that really stuck with me. And he was just saying, you get tired of your own story way more than other people, so never shortcut your story.
Yes.
Even if you've said it a million times, if you think they've heard it a million times, you are tired of it, but other people aren't.
Yeah. And there might be one or two people that roll their eyes and just know those aren't your people. I mean, You can't change everything because a few people, aren't going to be in alignment with where you're going. I mean, you're going to have that for the rest of your life. And in fact, I think the more successful you become, sometimes you become a little bit more polarizing, and you're just going to have those people that aren't your people. That's okay. Yeah. There are millions of people out there that are your people.
Yeah. And one of the things about story from a branding standpoint as well, as I think about it, is using it for stage introductions. But I would tell everybody, run, don't walk. Get a stage introduction that is video, that is produced. Because it frames you. I mean, it is a key branding, marketing, communication tool when done the right way. It frames you in front of the audience before you even start speaking.
Oh, it totally elevates you.
And
There's just no doubt about it.
I can't tell you how many people, that I've done stage introductions for through Celebrity Science and all that get a standing ovation before they start, because the story in that. But here's the kind of a secret hidden gem that people don't think about. All you have to do is make a little edit at the end of your stage introduction, and now it becomes a standalone promotion piece that you put in the about section of your website. All right? So you get all the glamour, you get all the pizzazz, all the excitement that's created in a kind of a quick moving, updated, hip piece that frames you the right way.
So you can repurpose it.
Well, yeah.
Ways,
so
right?
So you can have it on your website. Or in your YouTube or whatever the case may be, that doesn't end. You edit out the part that says, "So help us bring Sally George to the stage." All right, you don't say that at the end. You edit that out, and now you say,
"Now it's a sizzle reel."
Pardon me?
Now it's a sizzle reel.
Now it's a sizzle reel. So now at the end, it just says, it just introduces you, and it doesn't give them a command to go. To welcome you on stage. You see,
right.
you have. It's really 2 for 1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But nothing, especially for those of us that have a reel, that have a stage introduction, nothing gets you more than someone who's got something on paper. And I love this when people do this. They do the, I've been around Briana Dai for years, and I feel like I know her. I'm going to tell you from my heart.
Yeah. I'm not going to read her bio.
They are well intended. They think they're doing something nice, but they're blowing the framing of who you are.
Yes.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of funny. It's almost like I've been in a situation where I was speaking, let's say at a chapter, and they were like doing that kind of, he's the president of eWomen Network and so forth and so on. And I'm like, play the video. Play the video. Right. Because again, they think they're doing a good thing for you.
Right.
Or
they're running late, and so they want to read your bio and cut it in half on their own.
Yeah.
They want to edit it on their own in order to make up some time. When you've got your intro reel, that can't happen.
I think it's one of the most important things that you have for anybody that's once speaking, or anyone wants to speak more. But that you're framed in front of the audience before you ever hit the stage, and the best parts of you are being brought out and spoken.
It's a story, right?
Yeah, it's a story.
Your intro is a story.
It is a story. It absolutely is. But then they have that on their website. I can't emphasize it enough in terms of it being a jewel for you. It also helps clarify your message at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're introducing yourself to people. And what I'm saying, your message, it's letting the audience know, boy, I'm going to pay attention to her. Wow, I didn't realize, that whole thing, you have a surprise.
Yeah, and I think that knowing how to tell your story is something that we take for granted because it's something that we do for ourselves, but also for other people. But for somebody, if you're listening and you're like, well, I don't know how I would capture my story, I think that it's the best way to put it is to look at every season of your life that you've lived as a chapter. I have very distinct seasons of my life, and every single one of them is a chapter in my story, and every single chapter taught me something. And inside of each of those chapters, if you can just sit with it and think about what did you learn during this season of your life, your stories will illuminate themselves. When you really sit down and you think, when I was in corporate America, or when I was meeting your dad, or when I was, moving to Texas, and when I was trying to build a network, like all of those chapters of your life, all those seasons became chapters that have now created stories that you speak on. And when you start to kind of do that inventory, you can really pull out the gold in there, because not all of them are gold stories, but there's silver, there's gold, there's platinum, stories in there that you can really start to identify. I think it's helpful for me anyway, because I'm constantly thinking about that, not just in terms of, the stories that we tell on stage, but just even how I show up online. I think that nowadays people want to connect with real people more than ever, and being able to effectively tell stories online that really connect you to your audience at a human level every single day, and showing up every single day. Because even if you're not on a stage, your phone and your social media is a stage.
Yeah, it is.
People will kind of brush off, I only have 100 followers. Imagine putting 100 bodies in a room. Every time you get on your phone for those 100 followers, that's 100 bodies. That's a full room. And that's a big freaking deal. Yeah. And obviously the more that grows, the more that impact is. But every day you could show up and share your story. And it's your everyday stories. And how you weave those into the lessons that you've learned in your life, I think, is a really powerful tool that is super underestimated, regardless of whether you're on a big stage with lights and cameras, or you're just opening up your phone and making a post.
Yeah, you guys are doing this, and I'm reminded of the stories that stay with you. How many times have you heard someone say, and they'll say, "Oh, I really like the speaker. It was really great." And I just say, "Hey, give me one thing you learned from it." And they go, "Oh, geez. Gee, she was really good. It's just good." Yeah. No, really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just give me one thing that really stuck with you, one thing that stays with you, one thing that you're going to modify or change as a result, that impacted you. You know what I mean?
It's always their story.
It is always their stories.
Never the tool or the technique. That's the hardest thing for me, y'all. As the digital marketer, social media, like how the hell am I supposed to weave in impactful, memorable stories with the tools and the tactics of digital marketing? How are you supposed to make? It's really hard. I've really had to work hard at figuring that out.
And sometimes you have to borrow other people's stories.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I heard that, hey, Sandra Yancey shared a story about that really got to me. And then you tell the story.
Yeah.
You do. You
It
borrow.
also can be a credibility builder. I mean, I've talked about Ken Cragen, of course, being one of my mentors, coaches. One of the most important, most influential men in my life. And of course, we all, those of you that know me know, because I talk about him all the time, that, at one particular point, he managed, what was it, the top?
Oh gosh, Sandra, was like 48% of all the number one selling artists in the world were under his management agency.
And he was a business manager. Yeah. He managed them as a brand and as a business. Right. Everybody from Kenny Rogers to Dolly Parton to
Lionel
the Bee
Richie.
Gees to Lionel Richie, and the list goes on. I learned a lot from him. And so I often tell stories about him, but when I tell them, I talk about how important he has been in my life, what kind of, relationship that I had with him. And that in and of itself can be a credibility builder, that you have learned from others who have been way more successful than you. It's another way to build what we call trust signals, right? That I've invested in learning from somebody who has given me nuggets of information or tips or strategies that I've applied my business that's made me millions.
Yeah.
Right? It's another way of telling a story. People are curious about your personal life, and sometimes it feels like, oh, if I'm giving a business talk, I can't really tell them too much. But people are curious. Never underestimate the power of people's curiosity around that. And so I often weave stories that you would think aren't linked at all. I talk about how, women, are often very uncomfortable with sales. And I have a passion of helping women fall in love with sales, and to start by finding something that you can fall in love with. And I then segue into a story of, it reminds me of, when my daughter, Briana, first started dating Travis, and how, you and I were down the street. You know where this is going.
That story, huh?
You and I were down the street having dinner. Briana texts and says that she just started dating Travis, that Travis is going to be picking her up, and they're going to be going out. You asked me, is everything okay? Because you saw me on the phone. I said, oh, yeah, it's just Briana. She's just letting us know that she's going out tonight with Travis. He's going to be picking her up in about 20 minutes or so. And you excuse yourself from the table, and you were 4 doors, so we walked down there, and you walked home, and you went into the house, and
here's you guys love this part, don't you? Go ahead.
The doorbell rings, and Briana, you tell Briana, I got it, and Briana now knows that you're at the house because she didn't hear you come in. You come walking through the foyer to open the door, and you've gone home and you've put on a fedora hat. And because Travis is really tall. Travis is really tall. And I think you think that if you put on a fedora hat, you'll be 2 inches taller or something. I don't know.
That isn't what I was thinking.
Okay.
That isn't what I was thinking.
And so then you let Travis in. Travis meets you, and he's trying to be respectful, and Brianna's bouncing down the steps, and Travis says, what time would you like to have her home, sir? And you look at him, and you go, she knows. It's just like so not warm.
All you dads, all you girl dads.
And listen,
you're cheering me on. I know you are.
I can't tell the story and not laugh. And everybody's laughing, and everybody's wondering, what the heck does this have to do with me teaching them about sales? But I loop it back, and I say, I looked at Kym, and I just said he was not comfortable with Travis, with you dating Travis, because he was 5 years older than you.
4
years older than you, but you were still in high school, so it was a big deal at the time.
Let's be clear. No guy would stand up. I got to protect my daughter. So
Okay. But you're 5 years older than me, so you know what my mother went through when I met you at 17. It felt like we were playing this whole thing all over again. And so anyway, I said to you at one point, I said, you better find something cute on Travis to fall in love with. I said that to you. Yeah. I don't care if it's his third toe on his left foot. Find something about him to fall in love with and let him grow on you. Or otherwise, she's going to run off and marry him, kind of like, I ran off with you. And so here's the thing. And then I said, so what does that mean? Okay, let's talk about sales. You need to find something about sales to fall in love with. Find something about sales that you can hook onto, fall in love with it, anchor on it, hold on to it, and let the rest grow. And so I'm just saying, it's a story that people love. It always gets a lot of laughs. It's still funny to tell. It's odder to tell it in front of you, because when I tell the story, you're never in the audience.
Oh, yeah, you get to really have fun when I'm not there, right?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, Travis, if you're listening, I love you.
Yeah.
He grew on you.
He called you Kym, and you were like,
it's Mr. Yancey.
It's Mr. Yancey to you.
Yeah. And then finally we got married, and I think it was like the day after we did like a brunch or something, and
at the grill.
After we got married, and he goes, you can call me Kym now. You earned the right.
But these stories, they're kind of funny stories, and it's got a little bit of levity to it, but you got to know how to bring it back and anchor it into your core message.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, stories are just a wonderful way to build true connection with your audience. Never underestimate that, because people will not remember facts and figures and percentages.
Yeah.
They're just all those little stats that you put up on your PowerPoint. I'm telling you, they're going to remember the story and how you anchor the story to the message.
Really about how you make people feel.
Yeah.
You know?
I have a favorite story. You guys remember this? So we had the radio show. We had a radio show on WBAP, number one. It was the largest ABC affiliate in the country, based out of Dallas. So we did the E-Women Network radio show
8
there
years.
at WBAP, and it was in Arlington, Texas, is where it was. We lived in Plano, so that's really Plano and Arlington means something to you if you live in Dallas. For those of you that don't know, yeah, it's like a, 35-mile, 40-mile difference.
Could be 45 minutes. That's really the bottom line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, Briana and Rylan, we would take them to the radio show every Sunday. Every Sunday night, we took them to the radio show. And they loved going there. They would get, just scoot around and, you have to say what you guys did. I don't know what all you guys did.
We just got into everything.
You got into everything.
Probably drove everybody crazy.
Yeah.
Imagine being Disney also owned, the station.
ABC, yeah.
ABC. So
But
there they were in the station, free reign while we're, airing the show.
Yeah.
So we took them there, every week, and something happened on the way through the show. WBAP was right across the street from Six Flags theme park, and every time we drove to the show, Ryland would see Six Flags, and he'd say, "Hey, Dad, do you think we can go there someday?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, we're gonna go, Ryland. We're gonna go." I'm just placating him. I'm just trying to, So this is going on for months. And like clockwork, there was never a time when he didn't say, "Dad, do you think someday we can go to Six Flags?"
Yeah.
I said, "We will, Ryland. Don't worry, we will." Well, I really felt inspired, and I decided to do a surprise. And so it was Friday, and I went to Ryland's school like at 10 o'clock in the morning, and told them I had to take Ryland out for a doctor's appointment.
Oh my goodness.
And
Oh my goodness.
they went and got Ryland, and he's looking at his eyes like, "Something wrong, Dad?" I said, we got someplace to go, something I want to show you. And he says, "Oh, okay." He's a little kid, he doesn't know what, he just knows he's riding with me, he's getting out of school.
He's 6th grade.
And you think 6th grade? Oh, whatever, I'm thinking it's 4th or 5th grade, but
Could be.
yeah. But anyway, so we're driving there, and I'm waiting for him to say Six Flags again. And just like clockwork, he says, "Dad, do you think that one day we really can go to Six Flags?" I said, "I sure do. How about right now?" Mm-hmm. He's like, "What?" He was just, "Let's go there now. What do you say, buddy?" And I took him into Six Flags. And the most incredible thing about this is that he actually didn't care about the rides. We held hands, got a Coke or something, and walked around the park. But he just was like into the moment. Now, if Ryland were here, he would tell you he's never and never will forget that situation. Right. But here's the message. Like, why would I share that with you? It's because life is short. And how many things do we put off? One day, "Oh, we sure will. Oh, yeah, we'll make that happen." You know what I mean? Yeah. To do that surprise. Not only is it going to make you feel 10 feet tall and extra special, but you're going to get another benefit because of all that love coming from your kid right back to you. You're getting all kinds of platitudes and wonderful things said about you and felt. You know what I mean? And that's what life is all about. It's about touching the soul, it's touching the spirit, emotionally connecting at a level that is really out of the stratosphere. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. And the linkage, if you're talking to an audience, is, part of the reason why you became an entrepreneur, my guess is for some sort of freedom, right? Whether it be time freedom, whether it be boundary freedom, whatever that freedom is for you. What's that one thing that you have said to yourself that if you owned your own business and you could do something, what would that be? write that down and make a commitment to yourself to do it, because the busyness of your business can completely consume you. And if you don't run your business will run you. And when you make deliberate decisions, right, to do something like you made a deliberate decision to leave work early that day, get Ryland out of school, and go have a joyful, memorable moment that you will both remember for the rest of your life. You made a decision that day. And it's very easy for us not to take charge of our lives and make a decision to do something that is really a representation of the benefits of what you want by running your own business. Make that decision. Everybody write it down right now. Make a commitment. Look at your calendar. Put it on a calendar, and know that you're going to do this, because when your well runs dry, and your well will run dry when you run a business, it's easy to pour, and the next thing you know, you're feeling dry. Those moments and those memories are like the gasoline that refuel you. They say, you know what, there's a reason why I'm doing this, and I'm going to make sure that I do more of this, because it makes me feel like I have a purpose for why I'm going through what I'm going through, trying to figure out how to make the best of this business.
And then it translates perfectly into social media too. I mean, social media wasn't around back then, really. I don't think there was even MySpace yet when you did that.
No.
But let's say in real life, this is a real story that's happening right now. Like sharing that you went to Six Flags with your kid is all great, but the story behind that and the purpose behind how that ties into your brand and building your business can then be shared in the caption, just like my mom said. And so I think that just understanding how to weave stories into building your brand and your credibility, and sharing them in a way that's not just like, oh, look at me, but look at the message behind this. And I think that's the power of this episode and what I hope everybody takes away from today.
Yeah, it's so, when you do something that inspires you and you share it, understand you're inspiring others to take action to do the same thing.
Yeah.
The very thing that you've given yourself permission to do, in sharing that story, you're giving the people that are listening to you, that are following you, permission to do it for themselves. It's a powerful rippling effect. Yeah. So, she doesn't just mean business, right? Mm-hmm. She means millions. Millions of dreams, millions of opportunities, millions of moments, right? Millions of impact and millions of dollars.
I'd love to hear, your stories about your, special moments, that not only they were a special moment or a special connection, but how that tied to your business, in terms of the business learning.
Yeah.
Around it. By no means do I mean everything that you do that's kind has to have a business driver to it. But you know what? I mean, people remember it. Yeah. And we all know the thing. There are people who light up the room and people who dim the room. It's just.
Yeah, share your stories on social media as a result of this. Make sure you tag us. We'll put our handles in the show notes so that you know where to tag. And what's a story in your life that you can wrap into your purpose or your why? And as a result of what you've heard today,
or
if you're inspired.
If you subscribe, leave a comment. As a result of listening to this episode, I am committing to what? What is the thing that you're committing to, right? And guess what? After you do it, it will become one of your stories.
Amen to that. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye.